All right, for 12.2, we're going to do surface area and volume of spheres and cylinders. So I put these two together just because I think they're easier to do together with using pi in both of these. So let's get started. So the first thing we have is in this picture, this right here is the diameter. Obviously, it could be going any direction as long as it's going through the center. From the center to an endpoint on the sphere, that would be your radius. That's obviously the center. Now, on Earth, this right here would be called the equator. But when we're talking about just a regular old sphere, we call it the great circle. Okay. A sphere is a solid in which each point is equidistant from a center point. That would be your radius, basically. All right, so we're given the volume and the surface area formulas right here. So the surface area would be like, what could you, like if you had a piece of paper and you could cover the entire sphere with that paper, how much of the paper covered the sphere? That's your surface area. Your volume is if you had like a little hole at the top and you could pour liquid in, how much liquid would be inside of that sphere? How much would it hold? So first, the surface area formula. I am going to write out the formula every single time just so that you get used to it. You will obviously be able to reference the formulas at any time, but honestly, the more you write it, the more you're comfortable you get with it and you memorize it. So for our surface area, it says find the surface area and volume of each sphere. Use 3.14 for pi. Okay, that means that you must use that number for pi. You cannot use the pi number, the pi button. It will throw your numbers off. So using 3.1 for pi, round to the nearest tenth. So we've got 3.14, and then we've got our radius, which is 7 squared. I know that 7 squared is 49. So I would just multiply this in my calculator, the exact way it says it. 4 times 3.14 times 49. And I get 615.44. So rounding to the nearest tenth, this is 615.4 inches squared. Oh, sorry, you can't really see that. So at the very bottom, I just filled that in. For volume, we have 4/3 times pi times r squared. Again, pi is that 3.14. And then r squared is 7. Oop, I had that wrong. R to the 3rd power, my bad. So r cubed, which means 7 cubed. So we have 4/3 times 3.14, and then 7 to the 3rd power is 343. Okay, my recommendation is I would multiply these together first. 4 times 3.14 times 343, hit equals or enter. Then divide by 3, and you would get 1,436.02. Please multiply all of those and then hit enter or equals. Then you divide by 3. So rounding this would just leave that 0. And since we have volume, we put the cubed, inches cubed. In part B, you are given that the sphere has a diameter of 34 meters. So right off the bat here, I'm going to go ahead and change that to radius of 17 meters. So finding surface area. I'm just plugging in my numbers. So 17 squared. Okay, 17 squared is 289. So multiply together. All right, so rounding that 4 makes the 8 stay. So my surface area is 3,629.8 meters squared. Okay. Volume 4/3 pi r cubed and r again is 17 cubed. So I do need to figure out 17 cubed real quick. And that's 4,913. All right, so again, I'm going to multiply the 4 times 3.14 times 4913. Hit enter, divide by 3, and I would get 20,569.093. Okay, obviously that 9 makes this go up to 10, so 0.10. So 20,569.1 meters cubed. Okay, I am writing pretty fast because it's just plug and chug. You can always pause, work it out, and then just quickly go to the part where it shows my answer for you to check. Okay, and that's the same thing for the next page as well. Don't feel like you have to write as fast as me. You can always just write the formula, pause it, plug it in, and then just check your answer with me. All right, now for cylinders, I highly recommend that you identify your variables. I wrote myself a note to remind you guys, identify variables. You must identify variables. Okay? So first and foremost, we have lateral area, surface area. So before I talk about lateral area, surface area would be the area that's around the cylinder plus the top and the bottom. The volume, of course, is what's inside of this, like what would fit inside, how much. Lateral area, think of like a soup can. So like if this is a can of soup, there's a label right here that says like Campbell's or green beans or something right here. If I were to cut that label off and take it off, it would become like this rectangle. That is your lateral area. So the lateral area officially is defined by the space that's between these two bases here. So if I took that whole round part off, that whole label off, that would be my lateral area. Okay, so now, example 1. Identify your variables. It says that we need to have a radius and a height, and I see that R and that H in all these formulas. So radius, 11. The height is 26. The height is defined as the distance between the two bases. My bases are parallel. Okay? My bases here are these two circles. Now, I apologize. I'm getting messages on the computer. So before I go on to this, we need to talk about a very basic concept as like terms. Okay? You know, if I gave you this, that you could add those together and get 9x. Now, in the math that we're doing today, if I were to say you had 2 pi plus 7 pi, these are like terms because they both end with pi. So 2 and 7 would be 9 pi. If I wanted you to calculate pi as 3.14, I would add those together, get 9 pi, and then do 9 times 3.14. So this is just a review of like terms. All right, now let's get to business. To do surface area, we do lateral area first. Now, I do know that the directions say use 3.14 for pi and then round to the nearest tenth. I will tell you, we won't turn pi into 3.14 until the very end down here. So we're going to leave this in terms of pi. So my radius was 11, height was 26. So meaning, terms of pi means you just multiply the 2, 11, and 26 together. And that gives me 572. And I bring the pi down. Okay, so here is what I know. I know that this part, okay, that whole middle part there, if I take it off, it turns into a rectangle, and that's the area of that rectangle. Now, what I have to do is I have to add those two bases in. So the formula up here at the top that I'm looking at, that first part is basically talking about the two circles. The second part, this is the same thing as this, your lateral area. So I plug in my radius. This lateral area is this here. And I see it's in terms of pi. So I'm going to leave this in terms of pi. So 11 squared, 121. 2 times 121, 242, pi. Now, I add the two like terms together, giving me 814 pi. Now I can say, okay, pi is 3.14. So 814 times 3.14 gives me 2,555.96. 6 makes the 9 go up to 10, changing that last 5 to a 6 now. All right, so that was your surface area. Volume, a little bit easier. So the volume formula is pi r squared times h. I will go ahead and change pi to 3.4 in this formula. Then we have 11 squared, and h is 26. Okay. So we've got 121. Multiply it all together, 9,878.44. Rounding that to the nearest tenth. And that would be yards cubed. Okay, so the most work here that we're doing would be in part B. All right, so part B, surface area. We need to identify our variables. So radius would be half of 15, 7.5 meters. Our height is between the two bases, so our two circles, the height would be 9. All right, so let's plug in. Lateral area, 2 pi RH. Leave it in terms of pi. We do have that pesky 0.5 in here, but that's okay. We multiply 2, 7.5, and 9 together. So we want to leave it in terms of pi. All right, so we get 135 pi for LA, lateral area. Surface area. Remember, this is your lateral area. So we will just be plugging it in there in a minute. All right, so I plugged it into the first part, and then I just plugged my lateral area here to the end. So 7.5 squared comes out to 56.25. Again, remember you can always pause, finish this out, and then see if we get the same answer. So 2 times 56.25 times, no H. My bad, guys, no H. I guess I was on a roll. All right, so so now let's try it again. 7.5 squared gives me this. We multiply the 2 and that, we get 112.5 pi. We add in the 135 pi. And we add like terms to get 247.5 pi. Okay, last but not least, you need to multiply that times 3.14 to give us 777.15. So I would round to 0.2 meters squared. Okay, volume of this. You can go ahead and change pi to 3.14. We have 7.5 squared, and h is 9. So I'm going to figure out this, which I know is 56.25 already, right here. Then I multiply it all together. I'm going to round to 0.6, and that would be meters